Grant, what do you emulate most about your dad's writing style and process? What do you see as the biggest difference? Ooh, Lowell is the man. The biggest difference between me and my dad is he's a lot better than me. He's a lot more experienced than me. Like,
I agree with
that. I'll put it like this. With sports writing, it's not just writing. He's a better writer than me. I mean, I emulate his writing style. I've been emulating his writing style since I was 5 years old. The short sentences, the not being overly wordy, to say, do it with less, show and not tell, active verbs, no adverbs and adjectives, or as little as possible. I mean, that's what I emulate. But there's so much. You're not just an essayist. If you were just an essayist, you wouldn't be the greatest sports writer that you are. I mean, so much of what you do is performative. How you handle press conferences, how you talk.
We lost you for a second there, Iggy.
Uh-oh. Right, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
So you had said the word performative.
Oh, yeah, you have a whole performative aspect of your job, the way you handle yourself in press conferences, the way you ask questions, the way you follow up, the way you take over. That's something that I can't do yet. I mean, I try. I ask some good questions sometimes, but there's you show what the whole package is, like all the different ways one could be great at being a sports writer. And every day there's another thing you can work on. That's the way I think of it.
In certain ways, I learned that in Brooklyn because you had to stand up for yourself. But also from all the graduate seminars I took at Stanford, where there'd be so few people, and you had to talk. You had to take your turn of taking over with these very brilliant people. And I got to say, sometimes it made me more nervous in there than it did in the locker room because these people were so smart.
Yeah. And when I first got the job, I was 23. I didn't know that much about football. And you're questioning Jim Harbaugh, who's making $5 million a year and has been around football his whole life. It's hard to be like, all right, I'm really going to ask Jim Harbaugh a tough question here. And I'm going to follow up and I'm going to win this interaction. And you're really in awe of the guy. You're intimidated by the guy. And it takes years, I thought, for me to actually get to the point where I could spar like you spar in these interviews.
Okay, Iggy, when you interview people now, are you intimidated?
No, they're younger than me. And the ones who aren't, I know pretty well. I'm almost less intimidated. I mean, it's like the head coach of the 49ers is younger than my brother. No, absolutely not.
Okay, tell what happened when you tried to interview Monte Ellis.
Okay, this was 2008. I was 20. We had just started the Cohn Zone, the Cohn versus Cohn blog, where we would once a week do a point counterpoint essays. So it was summer break. I was working at my brother's company, and the Warriors are always really, really generous. I was a huge Warriors fan. They gave Monte Ellis a big contract extension, and I was a big Monte Ellis fan. This was before he ruined his leg on the moped. So we had a press conference to coronate Monte Ellis, and he sat there in a group, and I was invited by the Warriors, and I told all my friends, I'm going to interview Monte Ellis. What do you want me to ask? And I was gloating, and then it was time to ask him a question, and I froze. I didn't have a single word to say. And when it was over, the PR director, Raymond Ritter, said, "Hey, good going, Grant. That was good." What happened?
He said, "What happened?"
What happened?
Raymond Ritter is the greatest. You talk about a PR staff, the Warriors, they're the best. And although the Giants are very good too. And he just came over to Grant and he said, "Grant," because we were all, and it was in the gym, we were all around. He was right next to Monte. And Raymond wanted Iggy to get a start. And Iggy froze and he came over. What happened?
That's what you're thinking, like, maybe he's not cut out for this job. Maybe this isn't for him. There was another moment. Okay, so that was 2008. 2010, I graduated college, and I've been almost journalist for a little while now. I was an intern at KTVU, not yet writing. I was a production assistant at KTVU, and I was at the big game between Cal and Stanford. This was when Harbaugh and Sherman were at Stanford, and Andrew Luck was there too. It was at Cal. They won big. The Stanford won big. After the game, I'm running on the field, and I see Andrew Luck, and I get him first. You know how you run into a guy and you get the post game? I had Andrew Luck on the sideline. It was just me and him and the cameraman. It was going to be a one-on-one interview, okay? Andrew freaking Luck. And I had nothing prepared. So I said, "Andrew, how does it feel to beat Cal?" And he's like he said, "Oh yeah, it feels really good. Always feels really good to beat Cal, but it's not a good question." So we didn't really have an answer. He goes, "Oh yeah, really good, really good. It feels good to beat Cal." And I just stand there and I go, thanks, Andrew. And he goes, no problem. And just goes on to the next guy. And someone else ends up getting a really good one-on-one interview. I was like, oh man, I suck at this. I really suck at this. I should have gone to law school. All right. Thanks a lot, Andrew. All right. Good to know. Just checking. Just checking. Oh man. Oh man. Maybe one day I'll be able to get a second chance with Andrew Luck. Probably not though. All right, we got more questions. Grant, that stemmed from a handshake at a charity game because Crabtree first, one wouldn't shake the others, then it carried over to their. Okay, apparently, Crabtree and Sherman were at a charity event, and Crabtree wouldn't shake his hand, and Sherman held that against him. I think Sherman's the kind of guy who looks for slights. You know,
didn't you once have a thing with Crabtree when you asked him a question and he joked around with?
It was his last year on the team. It was 2014. All right. He was playing really bad. He was coming back from an Achilles tear and his numbers were down. And it was like week 10 or week 11. And he finally was talking in his locker and there was like 10 of us around him. And all the writers were afraid to ask the question. They're like, hey, Michael, is your foot okay? And he wouldn't answer the question. He's like, why are you guys asking me about my foot? What's all these questions about my foot? And people were like, they kind of get scared. They're like, oh, like we'll change the subject. And I was like, Michael, we're asking you about your foot because your numbers are down. Are your numbers down because of your foot or are you just playing poorly?
Good.
And he looked at me and he goes, okay, all right. No, he goes, he didn't want to fight. He was like, oh, I respect that. All right, you finally asked the question. None of these guys are going to ask it. And he goes, well, Vernon Davis's numbers are down too. Vernon's numbers are down. I said, okay, fair enough. So basically what he was saying is, don't blame me, blame the quarterback, blame the offensive coordinator. It's like, all right, fair. At least you have an answer. And then we were leaving and Crabtree wasn't done. I was walking out with Vernon Davis, who always would talk to me. Vernon was a very silly, nice person. And we're walking out and Crabtree runs over to us and he goes, hey, Vernon, how come your numbers are down? How come your numbers are down? Well, but he was smiling. He was like, hey, man, we're cool.
Yeah, what I want to say is that was a nice thing about
I like
Crabtree. You liked him there.
I liked him, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think he could compete with Richard Sherman verbally, Richard, for whatever reasons. But actually, he came off pretty nice.
And the thing about Sherman is I like him too. We've had a lot of conversations in the locker room. And the fact that he blocked me on Twitter, maybe he just doesn't want to read negativity about him. I would hope to think that if I went up to him in the locker, he wouldn't be like, nah, man, you said that one thing about me that one time. Like maybe he just wants to keep a safe space online.
Iggy, if you ever get into a locker room again and he does that, I got to tell you how many times that happened to me.
Yeah.
And you just shrug and you move on because I told you eventually they come to you. That's the message.
And I don't need them. I don't need them. I don't.
No, that's the other thing. I didn't phrase it well a couple of weeks ago. You don't need them because here's why. If you want to do this, you'll be doing this for many years. If you want to. Yep. All the others come and go.
Yep.
And that includes Kyle Shanahan.
That's right.
He's going to eventually get fired. All coaches get fired. John Lynch is going to get fired. Eventually, Salah is going to go elsewhere, and then he'll get fired. They all do. It's not a knock on any of them. They know it. It's the life. Andy Reid was let go. Wasn't he let go by? So the point is they all get let go, but you'll be there. You don't need them because they're leaving and you're not.
What's weird is every single person that was on the Niners in the organization or that I would cover when I first got there is gone. They're all gone. Joe Staley was the last one. Sure. And it's weird. They're like Balky, Harbaugh. And when you're 23, 24, 25, you think man, these guys are the king of the Niners world and they're never going to be gone. And then you look up a few years later, it's like, I'm older than everyone. Everyone that I was in awe of is gone. What happened? And you're right, Dad. And then you I guess when I get to be older like you and you run into these guys down the line, they're really happy to see you because it's been so long and they've been out of the spotlight forever. And it's like, oh, we shared something. Let's reminisce.
Exactly. And you chronicled their great days.
Yes.
So when they look at you, they look at their greatness in you.
Yes.
And I do want to point out that the Niners got rid of Bill Walsh.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of Ronnie Lott. Okay?
Yeah.
So everybody goes, but
they got rid of Jerry Rice.
They got rid of
And
Jerry
the thing
Rice.
about Jerry Rice, as a kid, I remember you always said that Jerry Rice, Jerry, he's difficult, he's immature, and you never really had a great relationship with him. But a couple of years ago at the Bay Area Sports Hall of Fame, we were just standing there with like a couple other guys. Jerry saw you and came right over and said, "Hey guys, what are we talking about?"
Here's
And he
what
was
he said.
it's like a whole different thing. All the anxiety, all the tension is gone. He's not in his 20s anymore. You guys are both old men, and he was really happy to see. I was surprised. I was like, man, I don't think 50-year-old Lowell would have expected that. 45-year-old Lowell would have expected.
I was surprised too, but I was appreciative. And we had a very nice time with him.
Oh yeah, he lingered. He was like, "So what are we talking about?" And he didn't want to talk about himself.
No, and I praised him on something, and he said, "Boy, that's really nice coming."
He said, "You look good. You're in really good shape." He said, "You think so?"
Is that what I said?
Yeah, you look really. He did look really good. I mean, he must be 50 something. He looked like he could have played for the Niners that day.
Yeah.
He was great. He looked like he was in really good shape. T.O. looks like that too. Those two are very serious. And I think Jeff Garcia is. They just don't stop.
I think you're right about them. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Lowell wants to know if you like Outsiders 408 says, Lowell, Biggie or Tupac? Come on, guys. Get serious. Get serious here. We only have him for 10 more minutes. What do you guys want to know?
Here's the thing. I am an older guy, and I was early rock and roll.
Yeah.
I don't listen to rap. I have nothing against it. I just don't get it. And when Iggy was a kid, he used to in the living room, he'd play rap and we would listen, my wife and I, but when it was over, it was like, what was that? I mean, it's just,
I tried.
Not something I get. But
I can imagine when I'm 40 years old and there's this new type of music that comes out, I'm not going to get it or be interested in it. So I understand. It's just different generations.
The Beatles or the Stones, right?
The Beatles?
I know it's the Stones. It's like no question. I know the Beatles, right? I want to hold your hand.
Come on, 8 days a week? Jeez Louise. Anyway.
Sgt. Pepper?
Lowell, do you listen to Santana?
I like Santana. I do.
Lowell, Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin?
Oh, well, not Dean Martin.
Not Dean Martin.
But I like, could I say, I like Frank Sinatra, but I'm not wild about him. When I listen to a jazz singer, it would be Billie Holiday. I mean, and I like Tony Bennett.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're a Tony Bennett guy.
I love Tony Bennett.
Yeah. Lowell, Pink Floyd or Led Zeppelin?
I hate Led Zeppelin.
That's the right answer. Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd has some good songs. Led Zeppelin doesn't. End of story.
Led Zeppelin is a migraine.
Yes, it is. It really is. Bond 1 James says Beatles are better than the Stones. Not in this lifetime. No, sorry.
Not on the Cohn Zone.
The Doors. How did the Cohn Zone feel about the Doors?
I like them.
The Doors? I can't stand his voice. Baby, like my fire. I don't know. I think he went to UCLA or was hanging around Westwood. So
for a minute, right?
Yeah, for a minute. Yep.